Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We do this every Sunday night. You need to come and be here live, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Got folks in the chat room. You can interact with them. We're going through an issue here on the political stage where we've had a committee working now for over 2 years, I guess it is, trying to find out if our recently elected president is guilty of treason or collusion, or whatever it might be. Alfonso del Arte, writing for something called the Daily Kos, K-O-S, thinks President Trump is guilty of treason. He says Russia is an enemy of the European Union and an enemy of America, and Trump is clearly under Russian President Vladimir Putin's thumb. As Myers so eloquently put it, the Kremlin doesn't need to install a listening device in the Oval Office because they already installed a talking device. His name is Donald Trump. One Trump excuse maker says maybe Trump is just trying to turn an enemy into an ally. Well, Del Arte says it's an argument one could make more seriously if Trump wasn't so needy for Putin to say nice things about him. Some whine about hyper-partisanship. Seriously, though, he says, can a moderate see Trump's disloyalty to America and to Americans' allies? National Review comes into the debate whining that the word treason is being tossed around too casually, so casually that it has lost its original meaning, and a new word is needed to define, to describe what treason really is, or at least what it used to mean. There's really no need for that. Just add an adverb and an adjective. Trump is not guilty of constitutionally provable treason unless some lawyer is clever enough to get Trump to blurt out a confession in court. It should be obvious by now that Trump has betrayed America. What high crimes of his can be proven in court is for the lawyers to figure out. That from the Daily Kos. In another camp, do you remember when PFC Bergdahl was exchanged for 5 Taliban generals? Remember that? For most of us, it seemed very strange to trade 1 sergeant for 5 generals. And traitor may be a strong word, but there's very little else Bergdahl can be called, given his behavior and the declarations he made while in captivity. It's several months' worth, as it turned out. Politico is reporting that PFC Bergdahl was actually released in exchange for 5 Taliban generals in order to cover up the Obama/Hillary Stinger missile sales to Libya. You remember Benghazi, one of America's most shameful events. According to Politico, this is a real story. First of all, Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to secretly retrieve U.S.-made Stinger missiles that the State Department, Hillary Clinton's State Department, had supplied to Ansar al-Sharia in Libya without congressional oversight or permission. Finding out about this, we got to get them out of there. Stevens went over to get that done. Secondly, it seems Secretary of State Clinton had brokered the Libya deal through Ambassador Stevens and an arms dealer named Mark Turi. Turned out that some of those shoulder-fired Stinger missiles ended up in Afghanistan, where they were being used against our own military. Thirdly, on July 25, 2012, a U.S. Chinook helicopter was down by one of those Stingers. It wasn't destroyed, however, only because the idiot Taliban didn't arm the missile, but it hit the craft. The helicopter did not explode, but it had to land, An ordnance team recovered the missile's serial number, which led back to a cache of Stinger missiles kept in Qatar by the CIA. Number 4, Obama and Hillary were in full panic mode, so Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to retrieve the rest of those Stingers. This was a do-or-die mission, which explains the stand-down orders given to multiple rescue teams during the siege of the U.S. Embassy. Orders several military types did not understand. The conclusion is it was the State Department, not the CIA, that supplied the Stinger missiles to our sworn enemies because General Petraeus at CIA would not approve supplying the deadly missiles due to their potential use against commercial aircraft. So then Obama threw General Petraeus under the bus when he refused to testify in support of Obama's phony claim of a spontaneous uprising caused by a YouTube video that insulted Muslims. The events interpreted according to this arrangement of the facts makes President Obama and Hillary Clinton guilty of treason. Now, do you think we'll have a special prosecutor to investigate any of that? This is what the investigation is about. This is why Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had a private server so that she could delete the digital evidence. And this is why Obama, 2 weeks after the attack, told the United Nations that the attack was the result of a YouTube video, even though everybody in the system knew it wasn't. Furthermore, the Taliban knew that the administration had aided and abetted the enemy without congressional oversight or permission, so they began pressuring, the real term is blackmailing, the Obama administration to release 5 Taliban generals being held at Guantanamo. Enter Private First Class Bowie Bergdahl. Here was a useful pawn used to cover the release of the Taliban generals. Everybody knew Bergdahl was a traitor who was promoted to sergeant to increase his trade value and used in exchange for the 5 Taliban generals in order to cover that Obama was being coerced by the Taliban about the unauthorized Stinger missile deal. So here we are with a traitor as President of the United States that is not only corrupt but compromised. A Secretary of State who is a serial liar and who perjured herself multiple times at the congressional hearings on Benghazi. Perhaps this is why no military aircraft were called upon to help in Benghazi, because the administration knew that our enemies had Stinger missiles. Because any of those planes knocked down would likely be traced back to the CIA cache in Qatar and then the State Department's illegitimate arms deal in Libya. Now, the issue with that whole story, as it was reported, is that it rings just true enough, doesn't it? It makes better sense than what we were told. But here's what you need to know, students. This sort of thing is going on all the time, all over the world, on both sides of the aisle, anytime it has to happen. This is an egregious, exaggerated expression, but there are little tiny things like this going everywhere. This is not your grandfather's Oldsmobile. This is politics on a global scale in the 21st century. It's not for the faint of heart. And it will corrupt the people in it if they're not really, really strong and really committed. Think about that. You get ready to vote for somebody. Will they continue to go after President Trump? As long as he takes breath. When he leaves office, they'll try to put him in jail. They're going to do everything they can to destroy anything he stands for. I have watched somewhere, the first president I remember was Eisenhower. I was alive for Roosevelt and for Truman, too young. I remember Dwight David Eisenhower. And you count through all those presidents, and you realize there's been a lot of stuff going on. But it's not near as bad as it is today. And the president we have now has gotten more done in 2 years than the last 5 presidents put together. That's why they hate him. He gets her done. And he's practical. Is he honest? Is he forthright? Is he upstanding? Is he godly? Not fully, on any score. But he gets it done. And he's doing right. I hope he has good protection.